too far. And she's done some amazing things in her life. She's run technology groups. In fact, she spent some time at Dun & Bradstreet, Hoover's, Travelocity. She's been around. And she's actually starting to create something new within her own organization. But one of the things that she's identified and has experienced is the art of transformation. How do you transform an organization as big as Intuit, or as big as Dun & Bradstreet, or Hoover's, or Travelocity, and come out on the other end alive? Who's going through a transformation today? So definitely listen up to what Mamie has to share. She's doing some amazing things with technology. In fact, one of the secrets that someone whispered to me is she's actually taking a product company, and transforming it to a platform company. So what's a platform company? Think Google, think Amazon. So consider that as you're listening to Mamie speak, and I hope you really enjoy her talk. Mamie Jones.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Okay, can you all hear me? Yes. All right. So I'm Mamie Jones. I am the Senior Vice President for Product Development for Intuit. And as you heard, I've had a history of doing a lot of online, Travelocity, Sabre, Dun & Bradstreet. And in all of these areas, transformation has been at the heart of really trying to produce extraordinary results. Thank you. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through the story with Intuit. I've been with Intuit now 5 years, and we embarked on our journey actually when I first arrived. I was asked to come in to really transform from more of a desktop to an online, and so that's what I'm going to walk through today. So I know Stacy just asked everybody, when we go into transformation, there's a burning platform for change. And so I want to see a show of hands. Either you're in the middle of a transformation, you're getting ready to go into one, or you've had one and it wasn't particularly great. Hands. Any of those scenarios? Okay. Well, Agile is a big part of any transformation. But what we've got here is you've got to bring this burning platform to life. And back in the day when I arrived, we were very, very slow to market. We had little to no innovation, and surprisingly, there was no process. We had no process. There was a little bit of waterfall, there was a little bit of Agile. People talked about it, but we really didn't have anything solid. The performance of our applications was in the 80s, which is dismal for those of you who are into the uptime. Also, the employee engagement scores, which we do an employee survey every year, and it was in the low 70s. And then it was what I call the Dr. No syndrome. We couldn't do a lot. Anytime that we were asked to do something, we would have to say no. I can't do it because we're all too busy. And so transformation is extremely hard. And most efforts do fail. And there is a Harvard Business Review article that is why transformation efforts fail. And it's interesting. It's an older article, but it still is very pertinent today. So where did we start? So what I like to talk about is, we can talk about the what, that you want to be able to do transformation. And people talk about the elements of what you want to see, but there really isn't a playbook. And so what we have developed is a playbook that is actually a how of how you can implement transformation. And this does not necessarily apply just to technology. This is very specific in what I'm going to be sharing with you today around technology, but you can apply a lot of this to a lot of other industries, lots of other groups. Okay? So this is a successful and it is a repeatable process. And it actually can be a lot of fun. So before we kind of jump in, within any transformation, there are some things that you have to think about and some really important facts. First and foremost, you've got some really great people on your team. They've done great work before, they can do it again. And also that going into any major change, and it's easy to talk about, hard to do, but you need to go in and you have to make a statement. And that statement is typically those that cannot make that leap with you, you need to help them move on. You need to recognize early that there are people desperately in your organization that want the change, and they've been held back, whether it's cultural, skill set, you name it. But there are people that are desperately wanting the change. And those people are your change agents. And you need to identify them early, get them visible, get them helping to get the flywheel moving on your transformation. And then what you'll hear over and over today, this is not easy, and it is, nothing great is easily won. So, second, there are some ingredients, and I think that this is a very, very important slide. There are ingredients to success, and so whether you have a boss, a leadership team, an organization, you need that organization 100% behind you. Autonomy is key. That when you are entering into something as significant as major change, the autonomy to do the hiring, the firing, the financials, your budget, how much flexibility do you have? This autonomy is paramount to moving very quickly because in some cases, companies are at the brink. If they don't change, they're in trouble. And so when you enter into transformation, you've got to be able to move quickly. The next is the fearless HR partner, and I call this my HR partner with chops. This is an individual or a group of individuals that are there right with you. They're getting roadblocks out of the way. They are not putting roadblocks in front of you. And in fact, they're allowing you to move very, very quickly. So a very key element to drive really fast change. And then for the person who's helping to lead the transformation, you have to demonstrate competence. And as you start to demonstrate competence, you start to build trust. And trust, for many of you probably know that as a technology organization, one of the things that I covet is being a very trusted organization so that when we come and ask for something, people know that it's real, they know that you've done your homework, and that you've built that capability. And then last but not least is persistence. My motto is good things take time, and sometimes it's 2 steps forward and 1 step back, but you are always driving and you have got to remain persistent. So with that, capturing hearts and minds, how do you do it? This is the essence of what you need to do to get and kickstart your transformation. But it's easier said than done. So I'm going to walk you through an actual how of what we did in Intuit when I first walked in. So it is a listen and learn. And I actually walked in, I had 112 people when I joined Intuit. I talked to every single individual, and I asked the same questions. In fact, what I have is a script. It's a script of about 7 questions. And I learned that over previous transformational efforts because as I asked different questions, I would get people in my office going, why didn't you ask me that question? Well, why did you ask her that and not me? So what's going on? So I made a script, and interestingly enough, about the second week, people came in already knowing what the questions were. Okay? But they're questions along the spectrum of what do you do, what is your career aspirations, what projects are you working on, what process do you use? And so from that, you have to make the conversation safe, and you have to be genuine because people can smell phony a mile away. And then you capture quotes and themes. And it's interesting because when you make a safe environment for somebody to come and tell you, hey, tell me what's going on, and you're doing some of that listening, you'd be amazed at what quotes that you will hear. So let me share a few. Now, these are not some of the more colorful ones that we got. And in that conversation with 112 people, I have over 300 quotes. I still have them today. But what this does, it defines your culture. And as you have a conversation with people, there's an emotional element that comes out. And there were some interesting other words that were used from some individuals. But again, being genuine and listening and allowing people to really share what is on their mind and what is in their way and what is going on with our culture is really paramount. So these are just some of the quotes, and I'll share some other ones a little bit later with you. Okay? So that's what I heard. And so, kickstart the journey. What do you do? So what we did is you get people out. And we went into a room very similar to this at a hotel. And we had people that were around in the room, and we had 8 tables. And what I did is, as people came in, they were assigned a table, and there was a theme at each table. There was 8 themes. And these are the themes that I gathered from listening to all of the employees. And so when they came in, I said, hey, these are the 8 themes. Did I get it right? And there was a lot of head nodding, right? But then you want to get them out of your comfort zone. And in our particular case, there had been people working together, I don't know, 15, 20 years, and they'd never seen each other. They'd never met. And they came in from all areas of the United States and India. It was phenomenal to see them. The other thing they didn't know at the time is that they were put into Agile teams. And so all aspects of development were at each of the tables. And whatever table this group started with, they owned. They owned that particular issue. But what we did is, throughout the 2 days, they rotated throughout the tables, they provided feedback, so that everybody in the organization was able to provide input into what we would do to solve these problems. Rich discussions, rich data, and then for the homework for the second day is every table had to consolidate that data into what is important, priorities to improve, next steps in terms of what we would do to solve these problems. And then they gave that presentation to the entire organization. Getting people out of their comfort zone is another thing. When you've not had people know each other and meet each other, you want to kind of break the ice. And we do some pretty crazy things. So we had a box underneath each of the table, and it had some props. Silly, stupid, crazy props. And each table, they had to develop a commercial for Intuit. And they had very specific outcomes, and they had to deliver a message, and it was an important thing. And we had a panel of our senior leadership teams that had to actually judge the commercials. And there were boas and hats and stupid glasses and you name it. They had a lot of different things. But we had a lot of fun, and it kind of broke the ice a little bit and got people starting to work together. And of course, there were some great prizes for the winners. But what this does is it brings the burning platform to life, so that as they go around the tables and they're providing input, they themselves are learning that we have a problem. And what are we going to do to fix it? So after the 2 days, we said, okay, and some of the people that are in this room actually participated in this. We have some Intuit folks here. Said, can we solve all 8 things at once? No, people shook their head. No, can't do it. Okay, can we do 5? Nah, probably not. How about 3? They said, yeah. So we created a huge board. It had the top 8 issues, and everybody go take your sticker. You get 3 of them, and you get to put them on the top 3. It was pretty clear. Now, I knew which ones they were going to pick, because I've been through this before, and it is pretty common. But let me share with you what the team picked. This was the order in which they said the people was the most important. Now, they're saying this about themselves. They're saying the people is our biggest problem. Okay? And it doesn't mean me, myself, but they're recognizing talent, skill set, capability. There was lots behind that, right? Second was process, and this is where Agile comes in. We had 0 process, none. And in fact, when I walked into Intuit, we were under an audit from the audit committee, and the process was identified as the highest risk to the business because there was no traceability, there was no process. And so that was really interesting. And then third is the platform. And you heard from Stacy, we're moving from a product to a platform company, services, and doing this as fast as we possibly can. But this is what they voted on. Now, interestingly, I will say after a year, not only did we tackle these 3, but we actually solved all 7 of the 8. And it was pretty remarkable to go back to those decks that they shared. But we started with these 3. So let the fun begin. People, you've got to set expectations in terms of what you expect, how you expect it. And some people understand, be careful what you ask for because here it comes. And that's what we asked the entire room, is everybody ready to go? And everybody said yes. And this is the wild ride. The second thing is you have to make the tough decisions early. And there are people who simply will not come along the journey. And you've got to make an example, and you've got to make changes. It's the hardest thing in the world to do. It is the most important thing in the world to do. And the team members are waiting for you to do it, to help everybody rise up. It's difficult because we're human beings and we want to help everybody, and we give everybody in the company a chance, but if they can't make it, we either need to help them or they oftentimes will make that leap themselves. Also, let people shine. The people who are helping you with the flywheel and getting it moving, you've got to get them out, you've got to celebrate, which is also the last one here. You listen to your employees and you pivot, you make changes, and you make it better based on what they are telling you, okay? So this is all of the people aspects. Process, waterfall to Scrum, and it was sort of waterfallish. But what we needed to do, I actually, in one of the interviews of one of the employees early on in the first few weeks, they list the projects that they're working on. This one individual was working on 10 projects. 10. Now, I think it's diminishing returns after 2 or 3. However, it was insane. Number one, there was no transparency. Nobody knew who was working on what. There was no tool to show, okay, what team is developing what. They had different tools for Excel, sticky notes, Microsoft Project, you name it, it was all over the board. So getting that transparency to the organization helps change the conversation. That says, I would love to take on those 3 new projects. However, you have a finite number of employees, and which would you prefer to trade off? But we had none of those tools. We needed to dedicate cross-functional teams. So similar to the tables, we put people in cross-functional teams, agile teams, based on their product. This is what the team asked for, embedding experts. And we actually have Mike Stout was one of our Agile experts who's in the room here, who we actually parachuted experts in to help because we don't know what we don't know. And it's easy for me to say, let's go, but the team asked for it, and we listened, and we brought experts in to help us in this transformation to go faster. Again, listening to the team's ideas, and then provide the current tools, systems, and support. And again, we got to get away from multiple tools down to single ones so that when you move from one group to the other, you're not having to relearn how to do work within a different group. Okay, so standardize those. The most important thing, you get out of the way. These people want to go, and you've got to get out of the way. Now, trust but verify. You want to do some inspection to make sure that things are going in the right direction. And I will say early on, you got to do probably a little bit more inspection early because people are struggling. And as you guys know, in probably the first 8 to 10 weeks doing Agile, it's a complete pivot, and they take a dip. It's that S-curve, right? But this was the process that we needed to get into place and moving to Scrum. And then from the platform perspective, service-oriented architecture, all component-based, standard tools, as I just mentioned, but this is along building a PMO organization which did not exist, and it's a very lightweight one. CI/CD, so this is all of the continued integration and delivery. It is anything from infrastructure, the automation, to help improve the environment for your teams. And then open APIs, accelerating development for new apps. And actually, we're really going down the Amazon model at this point. It's service-oriented, and we're doing everything as a service, moving into platform as well. And then reducing text complexity. And this is one thing that Intuit, when I first got in, they didn't spend a lot of time on this, and in fact had let a lot of our systems and applications atrophy. And we've been doing a tremendous amount in this area. So these were the things we were tackling coming into this transformation. Now, nurturing the change. This is extremely important. So when you enter into change, the team, they want to know what's going on. And when you don't tell them, then rumors come up because they're going to make something up in the absence of the lack of information. And so we made a very deliberate attempt to do weekly notes. So we send out a weekly update with what's going on, who's doing some great work where we recognize people, and it actually has been a huge help in terms of showing what we're doing and where we're going. I do skip levels, I do pizza lunches, and I spend time, I attend sprint reviews so that we are with the team, learning, understanding, listening to what's going on. And it really is that listening for opportunities that the teams really are asking you for. Leadership development, I went up and introduced myself to Andy earlier. We actually use 2 books for the leadership team. One is the Leadership Challenge by Posner and Koons, and the second book is Turn the Ship Around. And we actually had David Marquet, the author, come and do a leadership session with us at Intuit. These 2 books are the antithesis of what I would call the elements that drive extraordinary results and are great books for lessons to go back and review. And so what we do, we take leadership development extremely seriously, and we do activities throughout the year around these 2 books. There are 5 practices in the Leadership Challenge, and we focus a lot on the competence and clarity that's in the Turn the Ship Around. And we focus on how do we get our leaders to be better at this every step of the way. And then showcasing innovation. This was when we had our employee survey. This was one that was dismal. And it was probably the lowest scoring element of our employee survey. And so what we tried to do is, this was one of the 8, by the way, one of the 8 themes, we have no innovation. And so we thought, okay, is there somebody in the room as we were going through defining the burning platform, does anybody want to take the challenge to say, what would we do from an innovation? And we had several people raise their hands because they were so passionate about it. And so what we started was with show and tells. And we said, okay, people can use what we do at Intuit is 10% of their time is used for unstructured time. And that is given to every single employee to do what they want with that 10%. So whether they want to bake it into their backlog or if they want to go and do that in their extra time, that's what that time is used for. We started bringing people in to get show and tell, and it was awesome to see some of the ideas. Well, that was about 4 years ago, and now we've taken another completely different leap, and now we do Innovation Days every quarter. We do them 3 days in the quarter, and everything shuts down, and it is nothing except innovation. And we do a couple of things. We say, listen, there are some amazing problems that are facing our customers. Here's a list of things that if you don't have an idea and you want to be able to participate, help us out here. Other people will say, no, I've got mine and I'm going to go and tackle it. It's been an amazing phenomenon. It started with just engineering, and then it expanded to engineering and what we call our tax content. And then it's expanded to sales, to marketing, to XD, and now our Innovation Days are, when we first started to do this, to take 3 days out of a backlog, do you think your product manager liked that? No. In fact, there was a lot of pushback, but we're persistent, right? And we said, no, this is what we're going to do. And so now you couldn't stop this train, because what we've done is we've implemented literally in the first year, and Sarah, keep me honest, I think it's been 30, if not 50 at this point now, because we've done some more since this was, the deck was presented or put together, but 50 innovations that never hit a backlog. And these are ideas, so whether it's automation, we have saved thousands of hours through automation for our internal teams, and we've saved tens of thousands of hours for our customers in terms of what they are doing for their customers in the compliance and the tax business. It is amazing, and it's very energizing to see what people are coming up with. And again, it's this get out of the way thought, because people have got amazing ideas and they just need to have the time. And in fact, I will tell one quick story. There was a gentleman, he's in the content team. He had a sheet that literally, it had maybe 150 inputs. And in order to get through the sheet, he had to hit the tab 150 times to get through it. And that had been on the backlog, I don't know, 4 years, 5 years, never could get to it. Innovation Days, it took 2 hours to fix just those. There's some really low-hanging fruit. And so again, once you let people go and you give them the time and the authority and the leadership to go and do it, it's been amazing. So showcasing innovation is probably the most important thing, because it brings out the creativity. It brings out, you see the talent. And talent is not, who's read the book Quiet? If you haven't read it, it's fabulous. Extroverts, introverts. Quiet people sometimes don't get all the attention. They don't get very much attention at all. But sometimes they're your best and brightest, because they're quietly doing, and that's how they want to be. But it's amazing, and it's for everybody. And then, again, recognize, celebrate. You see this repeatedly on several slides here. It's super important, and I will tell you, we don't do enough. I still don't do enough, and we push ourselves as a leadership team to say, okay, what are we going to do? Do we go do a swarm over for a team that just did something amazing, put it in PD Tech Talk, our weekly note? How do we send a thank you note to teams that are doing amazing? We have spotlights that we can provide, but it's something that has to be top of mind, and this is an important element. So, I want to talk about some of the extraordinary results as a result of this playbook. So first and foremost, I'll let you take a second to read. We went back after about 18 months and polled the team. I went down and sat with the team members again. And this, after 18 months, are the quotes. Now, again, as you saw before, there was a negative emotion. This is a very positive emotion. And when you get the words love, awesome, passionate, it is super energizing. It is super energizing. So these are some of the quotes. And then I'm going to spend just a couple of minutes on this. This summarizes some of the top accomplishments. There are hundreds more. But these really sort of illustrate the impact. And so when I came into Intuit, believe it or not, there was a metric that said 8 seconds or less is exceptional for page load time on the web. 8 to 15 seconds was satisfactory, and above 15 was bad. And I'm coming in, Travelocity, high volume, it's like, no, we have to aspire, it's got to be second, less than sub-second, right? But this was the achievement that we made within about 18 to 2 years, okay? Our online application was on Adobe Flex, unsupported, wouldn't scale, wouldn't perform, and within a year, this team, because we had galvanized the team, AngularJS in less than a year. And in the compliance business in tax season, tax dates don't move. And so if you don't get it done by tax season, you wait another year. So we had to get it done. Uptime was at 87. We had actually 6 months where we ran 100% uptime. And I had one of my leaders who was no longer with us. He says, you cannot say that. You cannot aspire to that. And it is absolutely we can. And that is what we're going for. We're going for 100% uptime. That's what our customers demand, and it is 24/7. The quality assurance to engineering. So we had people testing manually, 90% testing manually. Again, in 2 years, we have 90% engineering, automation, frameworks, focused on making that faster, easier, more predictable. Zero process to Agile in less than 9 months. Now we told the audit committee, give us a year, but again, with Embedding Experts and getting that help and getting people behind, we were actually able to do that in less than 9 months. In fact, we did it in 8. Innovation, we went from really 0 to none. To what I just talked about. We have quarterly innovation days, 3 days out of every quarter dedicated to nothing but innovation. And it is taking the business unit by storm. And actually, a lot of what, we took a playbook out of one of the teams in Mountain View where they were doing innovation days. And we said, listen, let's give it a shot. It's game changing. The growth, went from, we had very little turnover, and this is one, you can sort of be proud and not proud, but the turnover was 40% within the first 18 months. And it was a turnover of either people not being able to make the leap, people realizing they didn't have the skill needed to where we were going, and we set that expectation in that people setting. We said, this is what the expectation is. This is what you will be required to do. And then 100% of the leadership was changed over within the first, I think, 14 months. And I can't do it alone. And I need a diverse, smart, possibility thinking, innovation thinking leaders. And we had to change. And they were each given 3 shots. But if they can't make that leap and they can't come on board, you have to make some changes. So that was a very difficult, but it really set the tone. And if you saw in the quotes, it is, oh my God, the talent that's coming in here is amazing. It's awesome. Okay, so people wanted it. We went from very proprietary software to open source, and in fact, we're actually publishing now. Awesome. And then the QE ratio, so going from the number of QE people to QA, remarkable. So completely changed our hiring process. And then when we talk about Agile, we actually looked at our job descriptions. And when you look at the job descriptions, they were from ancient times. And it's like, okay, we got to revamp it all. So we're not going to hire waterfall. We're hiring Agile. It's end-to-end, looking at your skill set. We're looking at Cassandra. We're looking at HTML5. We're looking at Angular. All of these things did not exist in any of our job descriptions. And so what were we doing? We were hiring the same old, without really looking to the future. Mobile, and now you're looking at all the devices. So the engagement, we just got our employee engagement, and we are at 82. So we've maintained a really great employee engagement. We aspire to be into the 90s, and we're working on that, but we're really pleased with where we are on that. So this is sort of the money slide. And I know you guys will be getting these slides after the fact, but there is an environment that you want to create in your playbook. And there are some elements here that are critical. and I've gone through them in a little bit of detail, but I can't emphasize your strong HR partner, the accountability and the support. You can do it without them, but man, it's fun and it's awesome, and you can do it with speed if you have these elements, right? And in the capture the hearts and minds, you have to be genuine. You got to get into the minds of the people on the team. They want to do great things, and they've done it before. They can do it again. And that really is probably the key, because those are the people you're dealing with every single day. The commitment to stay the course, oh man, there are some good times and there are some bad times. And sometimes you think, what in the heck am I doing? Because sometimes you get beaten down, or you think that you've made a good effort, you've communicated right, and it's like, well, that didn't work. Okay, back to the drawing board. It's persistence, because it's easy to take that step back, but you gotta go. And then it's a journey. And I will say that in the journey, I was asked to take on the tax content team. I now have 300 people. And it's the problems that we're facing today are different tomorrow. So think about cloud. Think about wearables. Think about machine learning, voice. Look at blockchain. These are some of the things that we're looking at. So it doesn't change, and this journey never ends. And in fact, we're on our new one with some of the new machine learning, blockchain, and voice, where we're saying, okay, do we have the skill set? Nope. Okay, let's look at our hiring, let's look at our job descriptions. We want to start bringing people in that have these capabilities, so it's always a refresh. And we're extremely deliberate about it, going after early career. They are coming out with new skills. They are coming with a different thought process, how their brain works and how mine works, vastly different, but enormously important. So we're on this journey. It doesn't stop, and we continually look for outside-in learning. How can we be better? When we realize either we're not doing the right thing, we pivot. We'll say, okay, we're not doing it. Let's be transparent. Let's take risks and not be afraid to do the pivot at the right point. So with that, I'm going to leave some time for some Q&A. Yes.
Hello, I'm
Hi.
Melanie. I'm with Capital One, and one of my questions was, we've heard a lot about how you need 100% leadership buy-in, right? And if you come in and you're trying to change the organization, and you can maybe wipe out that leadership, 100% of it, even in your case. But what if you really don't have that ability to change the senior leadership, and you've really tried to influence them, tried to kind of change them, and any advice, I guess, in trying to actually change the tactical teams yourself, or at the middle management later?
Yeah, it's a great question. Is it Melanie? Melanie, okay. Great question. Like I said, if you don't have it, you can still do it, but it's really hard, okay? So there's several things, and I've been in situations where it has not been as wonderful as Intuit, but it's safety in numbers first. So find a group that's gonna go do it anyway, and form your Scrum team and say, we're not gonna tell them. They don't need to know. But produce the results. And producing results and facts works wonders. And this happened in the early days of Sabre, where we were facing a huge uphill battle. I said, there's got to be a different way. The teams were war, throwing stuff over the fence, dismal relationships, horrible. And I thought, there's got to be a different way. So a gentleman was working on XP. Okay, let's go. I had to go learn. I said, there's got to be something different. And so I met with the guy. I said, okay, I'm going to give it a try. I went to my leadership, and it's like, well, really? Well, you can go over there and you could try, if you want to do a POC or whatever, that's up to you. Good. So we did that. And by proving results, people sit up. Not only that, when you form a team and you start actually getting some good results, other teams, other team members around you, what are you doing? How is that working? Because it starts that flywheel. So it obviously helps when you've got the leadership, but it doesn't mean you can't make some decisions. That's, everybody is the leader, and to take that risk and go shoot for it. Persistence. It's hard. In some environments, it's very, very hard. You know, sometimes you just, like I said, just do it. What else?
Hello, Tim Hughes, Capital One over here.
Tell me your name again?
Tim.
Jim.
Tim, like tiny. They get it. For the code jams, I'm curious if they were free-form in terms of ideas to work on, or was there a list that was developed before they started working these quarterly code jams?
Okay, another good question. So what we did is, and there was actually a product manager that says this is the most structured, unstructured time I've ever seen. So what we did is it was very free-flowing at first, right? Because we really didn't know what to expect, so we're experimenting. And so we said, you've got, I think we started with 2 days, and then we've expanded to 3. But we said in the 2 days, you can do anything you want. But it's got to be against something that drives efficiency. You have to enter your project into a spreadsheet that says what you're baselining, so that we can actually prove what it is we're doing. And so when you come on the backside, you can say, I saved this amount of time, I improved the customer experience by this much, or whatever it is. And then we started getting requests from different people throughout the business unit that says, well, can somebody work on this, or can somebody work on that? And so the rule is we don't dictate what anybody works on, but there are many times people that don't have an idea, and so they need a little nudge. And so what we did is we said, listen, if you don't have an idea, here are 10 customer problems that we're trying to figure out how to go solve, or here's some automation that is driving enormous amount of time. But the ideas are coming out from the team, and the leader, Sarah Vassar, is sitting right here in the front. She actually leads this for our business unit, and it has been amazing that people do their own thing, but typically they're doing work against true customer problems. And that's what we promoted into it. It isn't about finding, technology to go solve a problem. We want to be able to do something against what customers need, and so that's a really big part of what we do. So it's a little bit of both now. Anybody else? Yes.
Hi there, I'm Dan.
Hi, Dan.
Hi. So it sounds like you had a good opportunity when you first went in to kind of solicit feedback from your whole team and provide a safe place and gather feedback from all of them. What do you do to solicit that same sort of feedback with the day-to-day kind of creeping inefficiencies that come into your organization just over time?
Listen, and that's another thing for our Innovation Days, because we do a few things. Number one is when we get new people into the organization, we challenge them to say, tell us what we're not doing well. Help us, if it's not adding value, help us get rid of it, right? We try to challenge ourselves on that. But the efficiencies do creep in, but I will say we launched last year, August, we're on a fiscal year. We realized, because we're very heavy compliance in the tax world, that so much of what we do is what we call run the business. You guys all know what run the business is, right? It's what you got to do to just keep the lights on, right? And in our business, it's pretty much close to 80% is compliance work. And we thought, you know, if we're going to change the world, we're going to do something extraordinary, we have to change that. We have to flip that. And so we said last August, okay, we're going to do, and it's a catchy name, it's not, they don't do the math on it, but 25 to 75 in 3. And so what we wanted to do was go from 25% customer benefit development to 75% customer development, and we needed to do it in 3 years. So we've improved last year alone 10 points. That's huge. It's unheard of, but it's because of the Innovation Days, and we set out a declaration. It's very similar to put the man on the moon by the end of the decade. Had no proof how you're going to do it, no way to know how you're going to get there, but by putting a declaration out there that says in 3 years, guys, we got to be here because, you know, we're going to have competitors run by us. And it has been an extraordinary declaration, but that has helped us in kind of keeping ahead of some of that tech debt that continues to creep in. And believe me, we've got a lot of it, and we still have a lot to go. But we're really making a big stride in knocking that down. But it's a great question, and you've got to be really self-reflective in terms of what you're doing in your group. And then it's also what Melinda, is it Melinda? Melanie, sorry. This is probably one of the harder things to do in a technology group, is to do work on something that the product manager isn't saying is giving customer benefit. And you've got to push it, and you've got to drive it. And again, there's a big persistence on that one as well. But you've got to put your foot down, and then safety and numbers on that as well. That's a great question. We've got a few minutes left. Yes.
I'm William, and I was going to ask, how have you dealt with failure?
How do you deal with failure?
Yeah, so you have this road to success, and of course there are stumbles, and that's something that we deal with regularly. And people are like, well, we don't want to make the chance. We don't want to take the chance. And so it's a question of how did you guys handle some of those failures?
Oh, you know, in some respects you want to celebrate them because people are actually taking a risk. And I've been in environments where you try one thing and you get your hand cut off, right? Because it didn't succeed or whatever. But the failures are an opportunity to learn. It's the only way we learn, right? And so as long as you take what you did in that particular failure and don't do it again, that's one thing that really irritates me. I don't like to repeat the same thing over and over again. So learn from it and move on. And I think the other thing that helps is complete transparency. And our technology organization is completely transparent. We show them everything. We have a site that shows where the project is, where our resource, every head that we have, what they're working on. We hide nothing. And so when you take a big swing, and we're showing some of that, some of the Innovation Days fail miserably, but we celebrate that with the team because they took a swing. And listen, it may not be this one, it'll be the next one. But it's a tough one, and depending on what your culture is like, getting that momentum can sometimes be hard, but it's all about individual, and it's that recognition and applauding people who are taking a big swing. And we do that. We're doing it a lot better than we used to. Anybody else? One last question.
Hi, my name is Ed.
Award winner.
Yes, chicken dinner for you. So you had talked about a lightweight PMO. Can you just kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, oh my gosh, when I said we're going to put a PMO organization in, oh my God. The team, rolled their eyes, okay, the big process is moving in. It's very lightweight. We have, for about 300 people, how many program managers? 10-ish, 11. We're getting one more. That's very light. They help take the burden off of the development managers, Scrum masters, and it is They are they're integral, they're an important element of the organization, but it's not like you're doing a health check, and they're a part of that team that is there to help pick up. And again, in any Scrum team, we share responsibilities. But with 300 people, only 11, they're very busy. Hope that answers your question. We don't like, it's the standard tools. We're going to bring standard tools in because everybody's got to move from one team. We promote mobility, and if you're going to move from one team to the other, you got to be able to do it quickly without a learning curve. So there were standard tools. There was an Agile tool we needed. We just had very little, and so that team helps our finance. They help our resourcing. They help all of our project status, and they help coordinate each one of the Scrum teams. They actually usually have several products they do. And we're over time now by 36 seconds.
All right, so thank you, Mamie. That was fantastic.